Hey, y'all, welcome in. This is the LaRae Infinity Let's Talk podcast, season 4, the dynamics of women. And I want to thank everybody for streaming, fucking with us through all 4 of these seasons, our spinoffs. If you are day one or you found us through my radio show, Stomping Ground with LaRae, I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you for you helping normalize conversations around and about women. I want to say thank you for having and sitting in and being a part of dynamic conversations that are fly on the wall conversations that are just around being honest and celebrating journeys. So tonight, today, this evening, whenever you're watching, in the morning, in the bathtub, about to go to the club, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'm excited to welcome in my guest. I'm going to have her introduce herself and we're going to dive in.
Well, hello. My name is Franka Baly, and I'm 55 years old. My zodiac sign is Aries. And today I'm excited to have this conversation with Legina. And you're listening to LaRae Infinity Let's Talk podcast, season number 4, The Dynamics of Women.
Season number 4. It's so crazy saying that, but I'm going to keep saying it. And I am excited. So how did I meet you, Franka? I met you through, I guess, the interwebs first. And y'all reached out to me. Yes, y'all reached out to me.
Was it that?
Yeah, y'all reached out to me about coming and looking at the space.
That's right.
And I say y'all, Myra Shaw. Y'all know Myra, season 2, the Ladies of Houston. She was on that season. And I often talk about her, but y'all reached out to me about coming up to the space and looking around because y'all needed to stay space for marketing and branding.
That's right.
And it was one of those first business moments when I was like, okay, this is one of those moments. Like, I need this to work. And as I said, and you and Myra looked at me like, don't you say that again. But I was like, the aunties of the business world of Houston are coming and I need this to work. And y'all came in and I remember your hair that day and everything, and you needed some photos, and we took them off of my Samsung phone.
That's right.
And you were like, it does have a better photo. And from there, it's history. You've helped redesign my website. We've had some really amazing moments. You invited me into the Auntie of Houston's book club. And at that point, I felt like I made it too. So I'm really excited to sit down and talk with you about your journey, particularly because I feel like you're a great supporter of other people. And you really do help people's voices be amplified and their visions be realized. And so I want to know more about you, and I want you to have the opportunity to share some of your journey.
Oh, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
You remember better than me because I didn't remember that's how the process started. I did remember that Myra and I came down and we were so excited. I was excited to find a Black woman that was, creating the space for creatives and others, in Houston, because I had been looking for something like that I could really, some days out of the week go and spend time outside of my home because I think we found you in the midst of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And so it was a really good opportunity to get away from, being at home all day and just your energy was so infectious and your enthusiasm and what you were trying to build and create. We were just already so excited and in love with what you were doing. So I'm so excited to be here today to have this conversation with you. There's obviously going to be a lot of things that you're going to have hear today that I probably have really never talked about because you're right. I do stay kind of like lifting other people up. I think it's my gift, but I'm in a phase in my life, I think now where I'm ready to kind of talk about my journey and hopefully it'll help other people on their journey as well.
100% think it will. Before we dive into the conversation, I want to play a game with you.
All right.
And we also have to shout out Share Me Wine. So I know typically y'all in recording. Let's talk. Let's talk. Hey, y'all. I just want to give you the heads up. There is definitely cursing, adult content, and there will be triggers in this episode as we look at and celebrate the journeys and the walks of women. Okay, so let's talk for real. I really do think that this podcast, when I originally created it, it was really because a lot of people were telling me, a lot of women in my life, outside of like all my guys that are my best friends, like women in my life were telling me what were secrets to them around breast cancer, around divorces, around picking business and money over family, right? Over family.
Yeah.
And it was always coupled with this conversation, but I don't want to talk about it again. Don't tell anybody. Thank you for listening. And I'm like,
Right.
cool, cool, cool. And then I'm in a job. I'm kind of unhappy. I'm listening to NPR every day. My dad had just passed. And at some point, I kept hearing podcasts on NPR. And I was like, I could do this. And it's going to be called Let's Talk. I didn't look up the name. Okay. So I get it. There's a lot of Let's Talks. I get it. That's why LaRae Infinity is in front of it. And I I was like, "What am I gonna talk about?" And I was like, "I wanna tell women's stories." And then I was like, "I don't wanna tell women's stories. I want women to tell their own stories, and I want people to hear them
Right.
because they're amazing." And then I'm like, "How the hell is this woman functioning after all of this?" Right? And then, these words resilience and empowered, they all come up, but it's just like a woman does their shit, period. And I wanted to capture those moments,
Yeah.
right? Time capsule audio is a magical thing. And over the years, I just get more and more grateful for it, whether it's because, like, I got my sister and
Yeah.
she's passed and I have her story,
Yeah.
or it's somebody that is like, man, Legina, I went back and listened to that and wow, I've grown.
Yeah.
And even men that have contacted me like, man, I learned so much about women through this. So it's super important. And this podcast, as it focuses on all women from all walks of life and how we grow and navigate and impact the world we live in, to tell often that untold story, that untold part of the journey. And it really comes down to the rise of women is the story of growth and inspiration and loss and fabulous failure. And it all equals up to where we are now.
Yeah.
So I just want to sit down and talk to you, and that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
So tell me about where you grew up, who you are, what were your family dynamics?
So I grew up on the island of St. Croix, which is in the Caribbean. It's about 20 minutes from Puerto Rico.
Mhm.
And it's a small island, small community. People had moved from all over the Caribbean during the time when I grew up to work. And so my family, I have a large family, I'm the last of 9. My father had gotten a job on the island of St. Croix. And
Mm.
so our whole family moved there. And the neighborhood that we grew up in was kind of subsidized by the company that brought us there.
Kinda like a Dell or Amazon situation?
Correct. It was called Hess. Probably seen the Hess trucks, and so every Christmas we used to get a Hess truck. And so
Okay,
yeah,
okay. Now I
but
gotta look it up.
I think they're called Havenza, but they're located in the Northeast, and they
Okay.
do have Hess here in town as well. But anyway, we all came over. They subsidized us going to school. We all lived in the same community, and I went to school with people that were from Curacao, Puerto Rico, Aruba, St. Martin, like every island you could think of.
Mm.
And so it was a really wonderful blend of people, and we became like family. We went to school together and we played together. And I grew up in that era where, you played till the lights came on kind of thing. And so we were all day running. It's a tropical island, right? So no winter. So we're summer all year. So we're playing all year. It was just, and I always say that I had the best childhood.
Mhm.
Just wonderful older brothers and sisters. I was the youngest, everybody looking out for me, but I had so much joy playing with all my friends. So I consider it to be just a wonderful childhood. Um, and I went to great schools. I went to private school, but it was kind of like a public school in the sense
Yeah.
because everybody know everybody, and so yeah, my graduating class had like 73 people in it. So it's not, that's the max. Not a
Really?
big school. But yeah, so everybody I still, remember everybody, know all their fathers. Like you cut through people's yards to go to the next street and everybody's waving at you. It's not a big deal. And that's the era that I grew up in.
Mhm.
And so it's kind of what raised me. I learned community, sense of self, uh, just felt joy and love. And I'm real thankful that I
Yeah.
had that experience growing up.
I love that.
Yeah.
What kind of stuff were you into in grade school, like middle school, high school?
Well, my older brother George was always like into like cartoons. Like he really loved comic books.
Mhm.
So he was always, fighting. He loved Bruce Lee and Kung Fu. So I would go, because he was 6 years older than me, I would always want to be with George. And he would teach me how to fight. But my sister Marilyn always took care of me after school. So she was, trying to teach me how to cook. But I was a bit of a tomboy. So I always want to climb trees and I was always falling. My dad would spank me because I'd be doing stuff I wasn't supposed to be doing. And I would be, getting my legs all,
Franka, you were
scuffed up.
thugged out.
Oh, man. I love to play. My mom would send me to school with my braids and come home every day with like sand in my hair. She's like, how you got the whole playground in your hair? Because I just love to play and, just a regular, just happy-go-lucky kid, So, yeah. I think I was just into a lot of stuff. I like to play hopscotch. You don't know these games, but we had games.
Franka, you act like you were like into like millennials older. Like you could ask anybody from a millennial generation, especially in neighborhoods of color. You say streetlights. When they come on, you run home.
No, that but some
hopscotch.
But no, some of these games, I'm gonna tell you. They're like island games, so you may not know.
Test me.
Moral, you know what moral is?
Moral of the story. Next.
No, that's not. No, it's a ball game that you roll and you bounce the ball and you count them. Anyway, we have moral, pelt the pen, around the world.
I know around the world.
You throw you have like a thing you draw in the street and
yes.
everybody got a number. Anyway, a lot of island fun games. Of course, hopscotch.
Yeah.
I used to play marbles.
Did you do the one with the rocks?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I play marbles and jacks with my brother. Like he taught me how to shoot arrows, how to make a slingshot and kill lizards.
Oh, God.
Like we was doing some things.
And there were 9 of y'all.
Yeah, it was 9
all
of
by
us.
the same mom and dad?
Yeah.
Wow. And they raised y'all. What is the age gap between the 9?
So the first 4 are like a year apart.
Uh-huh.
And then there's a little bit of a gap for the last 4. Me and my brother have the largest gap. They said I was a surprise. They weren't expecting. They were like, more children? And when they had me, they're like, we don't want no more kids. And they said when I brought me home, they're like, but she's so cute. She's like a little doll. So they said
you have to come in cute to be accepted.
Yeah, that's I was coming.
I love that. Yeah, and usually it is the youngest child. It's like, because we tell our brother, we're like, you were totally a mistake, and you're lucky you're a boy. We used to say that to him, and we, passed him on. Were you ever told you were adopted?
All the time. And I used to cry, like, I'm not adopted. And they're like, no, you adopted.
I don't know what it is with kids. Like that is like supposed to be this dig, but I don't know any youngest child that didn't think they were adopted for at least 30 seconds.
Oh, yeah.
Like, for real, yeah. I mean, look at this, and then look at you. And they're like, where? And I'm like, all our family have this. And he's like, what is it? That kind of stuff.
They did that to me. You're adopted. And I didn't believe them. I'm like, no. And then I would go ask my mom, am I adopted? No, you're not adopted. Yeah, so they did try that with me as well.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, we got real technical. I was like, Mom doesn't even have a birth certificate for you. So why do you think? All that kind of stuff. So you're running around the island, you and your other 8 brothers and sisters. Parents are married, really steady childhood. So high school, what did high school look like? How do you know where you were going next, right? Because, I had no idea.
Yeah, I didn't know where I was going next. I thought I was going to be an anchor woman. I mean, because I was really into writing. I was always very creative.
Okay.
I was definitely an actress. I danced. I was in a dance club and we danced in different parts of the island. I love sports. Volleyball and softball were my 2 favorite sports. But I loved all kinds of creative stuff. I used to do a lot of drama. I was always in plays.
Oh, wow.
And I sang a lot too.
You can sing?
A little bit. Back then, my voice was a lot better. When you don't use your gift, you lose.
You lose it.
Yeah,
you lose it. So, what positions did you play? Because were you like libero? That's a volleyball thing, right? Liberos and rovers or something.
I have no idea. That might be.
I only know because I coached a softball team. And one time, one of the girls wore the wrong uniform. And she goes, Coach, I'm the libero, like in volleyball. And I said,
that's probably a thing.
Yeah.
I don't know that term, but probably. No, I was like, backcourt, the one that you pass the ball, I could save it kind of thing because I'm always diving for the ball. I love going for the ball and saving it. That was my favorite position, to just be in the backcourt. Wasn't great at the net. I'm tall, so I could jump and stuff, but I was better at backcourt, I would say.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. And then softball?
I played every position.
Really?
Center field, I was a catcher for a while, played first base for a minute, played third base, then they put me out like everywhere. My arm was pretty strong, so I did end up, my last position was out in center field.
Mhm.
But I really loved being on third base. That was like my favorite.
Ooh, you're
Yeah.
right-handed though, right?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. I was like, I'm left-handed. That was a super challenge.
Catcher
So
was the worst.
oh, I loved catcher.
No, too much standing and stopping and standing and stuff.
I loved it. I felt like I was the,
you was in it.
yeah, I was orchestrating the whole winning experience or
Yeah,
losing at
yeah,
that point.
yeah.
So you were into all that stuff in high school.
Yeah.
So did you go to college? Is that what you went to college for?
When I got to college, yes, I started off as a journalism major.
Okay.
And I wanted to, like I told you, I was going to be on television. I wanted to be like, not, my idol was not Barbara Walters. I think it was Max Robinson at the time. I don't
Mhm.
remember if you remember him, but
Mm-mm.
he was on ABC.
Okay.
He was like the news. Anyway, I loved the ability to deliver information and use my storytelling. I really love stories, and just it also really, I think, tapped into the acting that I had done,
Mhm.
and being able to utilize your knowledge in that way and write stories. I enjoyed that. But then I got into college and I took this one class in sociology, and it was really about the study of cultures, and I started studying different cultures and how societies are formed. And for some reason, I really resonated with that work and ended up changing my major in my second
Wow.
year from journalism to sociology.
These major changes are real. And when I was in higher ed, I used to always tell my students that because the school wants you to pick your major
Yeah.
because it goes into their matrix, their certifications,
Yeah.
and their all that stuff. And I used to always say, don't pick your major until you find out what you're interested in.
Yeah.
And so that's really interesting. So you switched majors. What'd you do with your major at that point?
Well, I ultimately wanted to go to grad school. What I realized is that I love research and I liked writing, but I like deep writing. Journalism felt very surfacey to me. Even though you could do investigative journalism, the kind of journalism that I was doing, it felt like, go get the quick story and come and report
Mhm.
quick facts on it. And that didn't resonate with me. Whereas with the sociological work that I was doing, I was actually deep diving into like research and studying and asking
Mhm.
questions that tapped into the curiosity that I have. And so I really loved that. So eventually I was going to go on and get, a master's and maybe a PhD and do social work and be in the field and doing that kind of work. Life had other plans. That's not what I ended up
Mhm.
doing, as you know. But I did definitely finish with my degree in sociology. Took a lot of classes in psychology. Also, really understood just psychology of people, how people think, and you know, really how we interact with each other and how that impacts how we show up in the world. I mean, just being able to understand people, I think, is really important to some of the work that I do today. It's just interesting because at the time I didn't know I was going to end up doing this work.
And you know what? I think about that too because when I was in my last semester of school, I think maybe I've talked about this before, but I remember feeling or knowing that I was going to move back to Texas.
Yeah.
And we found out that standardized testing would determine how an educator would keep their job
Mm.
or, get raises, all this stuff. And I was like, I don't want my job to be teaching a test to kids, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm in my last year, my senior year, and I decided to not get my certifications in education. I was health and physical education, doing all the things, and the only option was to do adolescent psychology is a concentration
Mm.
to finish completing my hours to graduate on time. And that was the best year.
Mm.
I loved it. I loved the case studies. I loved and one of the first things a professor told me was, all right, y'all, we're about to do all these case studies around different learning disorders and all of this stuff. do not analyze yourself.
You're gonna see yourself and everything.
Look, I was schizobeta out of everything. Like, and I was like, no, that's not me. Like, but it's like you're reading and you're like, I'm all this shit. And now, like, looking back, I probably actually am.
Yeah.
Like, some people were over exaggerating, but I'm like, I was all of it. But it was the best time because really learning human behavior, I think, plays, like you said, into your work now in UX and client satisfaction. But I think it also plays into understanding people in a way of observation, even as a business owner.
Yeah.
And so it's really unique.
Yeah.
So you finished your degree. Did anything in college that like happened to you that stands out that was pivotal in your life?
I didn't live on campus. I lived off of campus and I was just really trying to survive. I would say, my parents didn't have a lot of money. By the time they got to me, I'm like, all they could hand me was really a Bible. I said, good luck. Like,
peace be with you, child.
Yeah. Like, we love you. We gave you all we can. You got everything you need. So I came to Houston because my older brother lived here. And my mother wanted me to be close to family member. And I got here and there were some things that my brother moved further away than I was expecting. So I really was in Houston by myself. And I'm 18 years old. And my first year in college, my father unexpectedly dies. And he's in his late 50s. So it was really kind of a blow. I didn't even have a phone. So when my brother showed up at my house, the only way he could come, he had to come to my house. Because I didn't have, I was working at a bookstore. I wasn't making that much money. I didn't have no car. So I was riding the bus to and from school, to and from work as well. And I didn't have a phone. I didn't have much of anything. I think I had a little TV. No real furniture. I had a bed.
Yeah.
Just the basic.
You had the basic college.
I had the bare.
I got my spot.
That's it.
My spot.
And back then, rent was cheap in Houston. I think I had my first apartment was like $250, $275, something like that. It was cheap.
What?
$300 max for a one-bedroom apartment.
Let's go.
Yeah, it was so cheap. So I was able to, take care of myself.
Yeah.
And so my brother shows up and he tells me, I thought he was, came because he was bringing me something. Because,
doing a big brother thing.
Yeah, I got nothing. But it was to tell me that my father had died. And it was a huge shock, huge blow. First year in college, I wasn't. My father was he was a type 1 diabetic, but he was healthy. He played golf. He was a scuba diver. He played tennis. He ate healthier than anyone that I ever knew. But ultimately, he had a lot of stress.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately what he died from. And so that was probably one of the most jarring things that happened in my college years. But right after I finished college, my first job was working at MD Anderson.
Wow.
And I stumbled into that job. But I always say, that I have favor. I always tease my boys, mommy has favor. And I say that all the time jokingly, but I feel like sometimes there is an angel looking out for me. Because I went into the Career Development Center at U of H. And I had gone there a lot over the years. I'd gotten several jobs through that CDC center. And this lady said, I think you're a little overqualified for some of the jobs, but there's this one job. And I know the lady at MD Anderson, and let me call over there. So she did. And I interviewed with, her name was Kay McCall, and she brought me in, young whippersnapper out of college, and she liked me a lot. And I spoke Spanish really good at the time. And she hired me. I was like she's like, I'm not sure if you're going to get it because I have other people to interview, but I really like you. But I got that job. And I loved that job. I worked with some of the most wonderful people. I was the youngest, so I was like computer savvy and all my, everybody's older than me. But I really learned a lot. I was exposed to a lot of just incredible people from all over the world that came to MD Anderson for cancer treatment. But while I was there, and this is 5 years after my dad had died, my mother has breast cancer, and she's pretty sick.
Yeah.
And I'm doing great in the job. I'm there for like 3 years, and year 4, my mom's cancer has progressed, and it's terminal. And I'm not sure if I'm thinking she's gonna maybe make it, but I didn't realize how serious it was. And while I was there, my mom did succumb to her breast cancer.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like another devastating blow.
So within 5 years.
After my dad, I lose my mom.
Mhm.
And I just started getting really triggered. The job that I had was so good at, I didn't know if I could continue, working with people who I know are dying from essentially the same thing that takes my mom.
Yeah.
So I go to Kay and I say, look, I don't know if I can stay here. This is really hard for me. She's like, you're so good at this. And because I am heart-centered and really empathetic, it's hard for me to think, where am I going to go next?
Yeah.
What else am I going to do? This is a really hard transition, but as luck would have it, the job in the paper for Compact Computer Corporation says human factors. I thought it had to do with humans. So human factors.
It doesn't have to do with humans. Is it numbers?
It does have to do with humans, but not the way that I was thinking. I'm thinking it has something similar to do with kind of the work that I was doing, more social.
Okay.
Nothing to do with that.
Hold on, let me guess. Human factors. I'm hearing factor. Is it like analytical work around humans and research?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So it is
Smart.
a research-based position.
Okay.
In a computer company. And back then, Compact Computer was a fairly large company. This is like early 90s.
Is this, let's put this in perspective. Early 90s, is that when the Apple computer came out with the back on it with the color? Or is this before that? Is this DOS?
It was right before that.
It's DOS?
We're still using DOS.
The gray tan one.
So Windows is slowly coming to be a thing. Because when I started MD Anderson, I was in the DOS prompt.
Floppy disk?
We're still using floppy.
The big one.
Correct.
The actual floppy.
Correct.
Okay, we're here.
Yeah.
I got you.
So we're still using floppies. We're starting to use DOS. Where Windows has become a thing. But while I start at Compact, I'm in the lab testing all this cool technology.
Okay.
All the new stuff, so I'm working on Windows stuff. I'm working on new interfaces, and I am a researcher now. So all this work that I had done in college, learning how to write papers and analyze, it's all coming together.
Okay.
All the statistical background that I have. So I use it in this job, and I am doing research. I'm in the lab, and I'm running my studies, and I'm doing video, and I'm analyzing the video, and it's so fun. And I spent 7 years there at that company. Loved it. Did go through a lot of transition. I got married in between that.
Where'd you meet your husband?
I met him at University of Houston.
You met at Go Cougs, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Go Cougs. So we met at college, and so we got married. He's in the military. And so he was gone for a period of time with Desert Storm. Do you remember Desert Storm?
Yes, my mom was stationed in Desert Storm.
Yes. They might have been in the same place.
Wow.
He was out in San Antonio.
Okay.
And so he was there, and then they sent him overseas to Würzburg, Germany.
Okay, yep.
So he was there. And so, I, as a military wife, there's that you're missing your spouse, he's overseas. We don't have any kids. So it's just him and I.
Mhm.
And, I'm just working.
How'd y'all meet?
We met in college.
How?
But he was kind of like a typical brother. He's like confident, like walk up to you cocky, like, hey, do you want to go out kind of thing? And I'm like, no, I got a boyfriend.
You had a boyfriend at the time.
Yeah, that's what I told him. I had a boyfriend.
But did you?
I think I didn't really have one. But I just told him that. But he didn't care. He was like, yeah, we still gonna be friends. That kind of thing. And then we started talking, and he's from St. Croix. He was born on St. Croix.
Whoa.
And I wasn't born there, but I was raised there.
Where were you born?
I was born in Trinidad.
You were born in Trinidad.
And grew up on St. Croix.
Okay.
He was born on St. Croix and grew up elsewhere.
Okay.
He went like New York and Houston. So it was kind of funny. So we're like, oh, you're from St. Croix? Okay. And we became really good friends. And so we spent a lot of time just being like, he was just my friend, like somebody I knew I could count on. And that's who Raphael was to me. Yeah.
Did you meet him before or after your father passed?
After. Yeah. Yeah. I met him after. And he became a solid friend.
Yeah.
Like if I needed anything, like I could call him and he would come. Like if I needed some medicine, or if I needed a ride somewhere, like, Rafi, can you give me a ride? Yeah, I got you. And he'll come and whatever I needed, he was always there. So,
I love that.
and then, after both of us were in like a good place, we were like, oh, we must like each other. And so we we started hanging out a lot more. And then that's how it morphed from.
It's like the bootleg love and basketball story.
Yeah. He's like, I always knew I was going to get you.
I like it.
Yeah, it was really
Did you
sweet.
date people while y'all were like developing your friendship?
Yeah, absolutely. We dated other people.
Mhm.
And, but he was like, I was hoping that eventually you would see that I was like the one for you. He was just always confident, just.
Hey, that's an attractive thing in a man. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, if there's A and B, and A may have like more of like the paper that looks good,
Right.
but B has the confidence, I go with B
I know, right?
every single time.
He just had that confidence, that swagger,
Yeah.
and he was really smart too. He looks exactly like my son Kalen. I
Okay.
should say my Kalen looks exactly like him.
Yeah.
And he just was like brilliant.
Mhm.
And I could talk to him about anything. He was really my best friend.
Love it.
And so we when we got married, I felt like I was married to my best friend.
How old were you when you got married?
I was young. I was 24. He was 25.
Okay.
Back then it seemed like it was a good age. Looking
It
back,
did.
we were young.
And it may, I think, again, is humans evolve and all this kind of stuff. I think 25 probably was a good age at some
Yeah.
point.
Now people probably would love to get married young like that, but
I don't know.
it was
Yeah.
young.
It seems, especially looking at, 25 now.
Yeah.
And, I'm 37 and I'm like, shit, like, I'm like, I would love to get married, but not necessarily just to get married. I want my
Right.
partner. I want my friend.
Yeah.
I always call it, I want like my homie
Yeah.
where we can fuck shit up together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not only be mentally and spiritually close, but just like
hang.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rafi and I hung for a long time. We didn't have kids
So important.
for like 11 years.
Wow.
So we were married and we didn't have kids. Like we were just traveling and doing stuff. I was working hard. He was working. Like we were not in any rush to become parents.
Mhm.
And so we didn't become parents till I was in my 30s. And so we waited a long time,
Mhm.
and so I feel like that time was really good, well spent. I was able to really grow in my career and, the things that I really want to enjoy. So I didn't feel like was missing out on anything when we had kids. I was like, I already did a
You're
bunch
like,
of
okay,
stuff.
cool,
Yeah,
cool.
let's have some kids.
Yeah, I feel like that's where I'll be.
Yeah.
So you were in your job for that 7 years.
Yeah.
And you were already out of school at that point.
Oh, yeah.
And you were still hanging out.
I had actually also got my master's at that time. I had gone back to school.
You just hit.
Well, I worked for a little bit, and then
Uh-huh.
while I was working there, so many of my colleagues were, PhDs or had a master's degree, and I felt like, okay, go back and get your degree.
You got the bug.
I got it, and I was like, if you don't do it now, you probably won't do it. So I went back, but I went to PV this time. I went to HBCO, and
I did not know you went to PV.
I sure did.
Wow.
And I loved it so much.
The HBCU experience. I mean, we could talk about the trauma of it. Being poor, going to you're like, how's higher ed poor? But HBCU experiences are like no other. It's like
so
this
good.
magic bubble of time.
I loved it so
Yeah.
much. I met so many amazing people. I had so much fun. I love my professors. I was focused. And I remember driving, to PV on the weekends to take class and being on campus. It was kind of different because there was nobody on campus, but it was the energy of it. I loved it. I love my time at PV so much. And I met my best friend, Curleen, Dr. Curleen. I call her Curls. After I was getting my practicum there. And so that's another really monumental relationship in my life because she's like my sister today.
Mhm.
And we've known each other for over 20 years now.
Mhm.
But just that experience of, doing this wonderful research and going back to school and getting married and, all the things that happen, those are pivotal moments in my life.
Mhm.
And they have taken me through a lot of difficult times. One of the things that, I think about now is that journey. I had to go on that journey to become the person that I am today.
Mm.
Everything that I always thought, okay, you didn't have a straight path. It was always like this, but that's just life. You don't always know where life is going to take you. and the things that happen. And I don't want to throw off the word resilient, but I think I'm pretty
You're
resilient.
resilient. If you're resilient, you're
Right.
resilient.
You know,
Right.
like I just kind of roll with the punches,
Yeah.
that life hands you, and everybody's going to have them. No one really, to me, is going to have a life that is without those challenges. It's really how you respond to them.
And it builds you, and like you said, it makes you who you are.
Yeah.
So I always think of relationships in the terms of reason, season, or lifetime, right?
Yeah.
And the more I experience life, the more I just absolutely believe in it.
Yeah.
And not this acceptance in this passive way. Because I get annoyed. People are like, well, it just happened.
No.
And that's just what it is. But you really do meet people, and it becomes for a very prominent reason that sometimes you don't appreciate until years later. The seasons, like
Yeah.
you're just in a season and somebody comes through and it's amazing and it goes away.
Yeah.
And then the lifetime, and you talk about this 20-year friendship.
Yeah.
What does that look like? 20 years of friendship. And also with a Black woman,
Yeah.
because I think there's a lot of premise around several times over my life, people are like, be careful, Black women this, or women this, or, you can't with women. And I have not had the opportunity to run into just women, even women that cross me, right? And or do shady shit, right? Because it happens. But I haven't had people that are flat out malice on purpose without me understanding like something in it was underlying, or
Yeah.
something that maybe they can't help, and not giving people excuse,
Right.
but me just giving grace to
I
the
was gonna say
situation.
grace. Yeah.
Right. But like grace, but I ain't no motherfucking punk. So you still can't be around me. But you have a friendship that's 20 years long. Talk about it.
Yeah, we just had a conversation about this on her podcast
Mm.
because of how long.
Shout out her podcast.
Yeah, it's called Drop the BS.
Drop the BS.
Yeah.
Available on Spotify,
Everything.
Google,
Everything.
Apple. Drop the BS.
Drop the BS
Okay.
podcast. It stands for backstory.
Ooh.
Because that's her work. She focused on working on people's backstory.
Yeah.
Because everybody has one, right? And if you don't deal with your backstory, it shows up and it morphs too.
Over and over and over again.
And over again. So we talked about our friendship. And one of the things we're different, obviously, when we started in our 20s, we weren't as close as we are today
Mhm.
because I was married and she wasn't. And I remember she came to my home thinking, oh, she's got a house and a husband, and when you're not there, you always think it looks so
The
different.
grass is greener, and it's
Absolutely.
not.
But we talked about the reason we've been able to be friends and morph into such good friends is because of our ability to be vulnerable.
Mm.
And I had a really good conversation with my young adult son yesterday about his friendships. Same reason he's so close to his male friends is because he's allowed them to be very vulnerable. So this is like Brene Brown's work, right?
Yeah.
If you're not able to allow people to really see you, you will never get super, super close because you're hiding pieces of yourself from those people. But because I've allowed myself to really be seen, we're just like, we're
You're
never
able to-
not going to be in each other's lives.
Mm.
And then we've seen each others through so much difficult stuff. The loss of my husband, her losing so much of her family, just things that we have experienced, having kids, all of those things. We've been there for those times.
Mhm.
And just us, we're both business owners. So that's a different level of
That's a different level of friendship. Business
Man,
friends,
what?
y'all be fucking with each other for real.
We gotta talk so it's off the ledge sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell are we doing? Let's go.
Why gotta pick this shit? I can
Yeah.
go back to corporate.
I
All of
know,
it.
like all the
Yeah.
things, right? And so sometimes we have those moments where we're crying on the phone, going like, we don't know what we're doing. Like, we're not cut up for this, and then we'll support each other through that. So I think that has deepened our relationship as
Just
well.
transparency and
Just
vulnerability.
transparency. Yeah, that's really at the heart of all connection, right?
Mhm. And if you spend a lot of time building up wall, and not saying you should be vulnerable with everybody,
No.
because people operate in malice sometimes. and
100%.
Showing
yeah.
people too much in your cards can be dangerous.
Yeah.
But I also have realized over time, and have seen over time with people, when you build up so many walls, sometimes you don't even realize the lies that you start telling yourself
Right.
about yourself. And then when, even last night, I asked my partner a question and he asked me the question back and I said, I don't want to talk about that. And I was like, well, damn. And I'm like, I have a lot of work to do, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's less dangerous when you realize you have work to do.
I was
but
going to say that.
It's a lot less dangerous.
I was going to say that too, Legina. I'm so glad you said that because I think part of it is me doing my work and me recognizing when something, happens in our relationship, whether it's me or whether it's the person or, what is it that I need? What's really showing up?
Yeah.
Right? Because sometimes it's not anything to do with the other person. It's your stuff that you have to confront and deal with. And so I think that's what's made our friendship is because maybe because she's a therapist, she'll call me on my crap
Yeah.
and say, Franka, what's that about? And I'm like, well, I don't know. Because I do tend to look at myself too. I'm very introspective. And so I think that has helped me in every relationship. I always look at myself and say, what can I do different? What can I do better? I want to be better. I want to be a better human being, not just for myself, but for everybody who interacts with me.
Yeah. Yeah. I heard you say you lost your husband.
Yeah.
But in the course of, us talking right now, you said that you started on an island, you moved to Houston, as soon as you moved to Houston. So in the course of this, you lose your dad, you're going through college, you meet who becomes your husband.
Right.
Then you're in MD Anderson, your mom gets cancer, it progresses. It's terminal. You lose your mother.
Yeah.
You're with your husband, y'all are together for 11 years, right?
No, this is before we have kids. We're together for, at this point, 20 years.
20 years. Yeah. But in 11 years, y'all were traveling, doing all that stuff before y'all had kids.
Correct.
You have kids in your 30s.
35. I have twin boys.
Twins.
Yes.
You have twins. So, and see, Franka, we're people for each other because I'm like, I just want a twofer. Like if I'm going to end up having kids and I'm 37, I'm thinking like it's going to be like 40, 41. I may pull a Janet at 50. I need 2, 3 to come out.
I was so happy when they told me, I see 2. I was like, 2 what? 2 people. What? It was just no twins in my family. First set of twins.
How about on his side?
Yes.
Twins.
And he did not know. And he's like, okay, we having twins. What? It was amazing. It was amazing. Yeah. So we had twin boys, Jared and Kaylin.
How was your pregnancy?
Great for the last 3 months. First 3 months, I had hyperemesis, which is extreme morning sickness.
Okay.
24/7.
Okay.
Like you were miserable all day. So I had that. Once they put me in the hospital and rehydrated me, I was good.
Yeah, my friend Destiny, she was on season 1, and I remember because she has like 6 kids now, all with the same husband, and
for her,
yeah, and I remember with I call them by number, but I believe it was number 3. We constantly were going to the hospital to put an IV in her for dehydration because apparently when you're pregnant and you have what'd you call it?
Hyperemesis.
Hyperemesis, it dehydrates you
100%.
because you're nauseated, you're throwing up, your body's just like sucking dry.
You just feel horrible and you're constipated.
Yeah.
Because you can't go to the bathroom, you have no fluids. It's horrible. Like they don't, what? I'm like, nobody told me this was going to be a part of having kids. Why y'all gloss over all this?
Right. You're glowing. I had a friend one time. I had a very close friend. I went to where she was living and I called her. I said, hey, I'm in town. She's like, oh my gosh, like, let's go. Me and her husband go out to eat. And I think my cousin was with me. And her husband goes to the bathroom. And I go, are you pregnant? And she goes, yes. And I'm not happy about it. And she's like, and he's so happy. And I'm just like, what the fuck? And, there's not enough space for people, especially women when they're pregnant, because people are like, you're glowing. Can I touch your baby? I'm tired. And not saying it's horrible, right?
No,
but you also have to remember that it can be terrible.
I never wanted to have kids again. After that, I was like, well, I don't even want to hear about I'm still traumatized. And my husband's like, no, let's try it. No. I am good.
You got 2 boys. You're good.
Yeah.
You're really good.
I was good. I was one of those women that did not want to be pregnant again. It was that hard for me.
But you said that was the first 2 trimesters. The last one was?
No, the first 4 was like that.
The first 4 months?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It was horrible.
And then after that, did you level out?
I was good. Yeah. I was able to paint the nursery and do the things, like that period where, I'm doing it. And then I got super huge and didn't want to go anywhere. but like 3 months, it was great. I was able to do all the things and get the house ready, and it was great.
Did you have a C-section or a vaginal
I had a
birth?
C-section because
Okay.
Jared wouldn't turn fully, and I was like, "Praise the Lord, I don't have to push too big." Yeah, but
Oh my gosh.
yeah,
You're like, cut me.
I am not sad about it. I know people say, they want to have a natural birth and all that. I was like, I'm good. Like, you can take these two out.
In my head, I will have a natural birth at home.
Okay, yeah.
And my midwife and my doula will be there, and it'll be just
It'll be
candles.
glorious.
Oh, it's gonna be beautiful. Now would I
With the water.
Franka!
With the water.
Franka, what the fuck, Franka? Like,
I mean, I don't remember as much as I probably would have liked.
Yeah.
But they, were healthy. But yeah, it was not meant to be that I would have a vaginal birth. So I'm good.
So you have your kids.
Yep.
Y'all have been married at this point for what, 11, 12 years?
Yeah.
Okay. Then what's next?
So, kids, young kids, all the things. I'm home with them. I did have, now that I really look back, I definitely had postpartum depression.
Yeah.
It was bad.
4th trimester is real.
Yeah. It was bad. I didn't realize. So my husband decides at this point he's going back to school, and I'm home with the boys most of the time. I don't have my mom. I don't have my dad. His mom lives in California at the time. Um, his dad is very sick with prostate cancer. So he's not really able to help. My sisters all live in other parts of the country. Marilyn lives in St. Croix. She's close to me. Gloria lives in Boston. Verona is like, everybody's everywhere, right? My brothers are here, but brothers are different, right? But so I'm technically by myself. And it's hard taking care of twin boys. I always say I blacked out for 3 years when they were little because I don't remember a lot of. I just remember like I try to get them on a rhythm, and my family does come and visit when they're really small, but then everybody has to go back, right? So you're figuring it out yourself. And
Did you breastfeed?
I did.
Both of them?
Both of them. Yeah. For about 9 or 10 months.
Shit.
Yeah. And then I'm like, okay, I really had to stop because I twisted my hips. Because your body produces a hormone when you're pregnant that makes everything kind of very pliable, so that your hips can expand to support the birth canal and all of that. And so in order for me to restabilize my hips, I had to stop breastfeeding so my body wouldn't produce that hormone.
Wow.
And so I had to go to physical therapy and stabilize my hip because I was having trouble walking because of that. They don't tell you this stuff, right?
No, and like as you talk about it, I always find it interesting, like women and their pregnancy stories.
Yeah.
One, it's not something like you just sit down and talk about because again, you were blacked out for 3 years, and then after that, you got shit to do and you keep moving and stuff. But the reality is, and it's not to scare people, but literally to have a baby, you do sacrifice your body.
You do.
And like, I didn't know nothing about this hormone and the hip thing.
Oh yeah, girl.
Even if you have the C-section.
I want to try to say, I don't know if I'm saying it, leptin. It was something with an L.
Okay.
And I remember the doctor talking to me about that and how, we could manipulate you, but it's going to slip out again because you're breastfeeding and your body is producing this hormone. And I was like, okay, well, we need to stop that because I'm in pain.
Because they just tell you breastfeeding is healthy for the kid.
Yes.
And then they also tell you that you'll lose weight.
And I
breastfeeding.
Did.
You do lose weight. I know that that's factual.
Yes. You do lose a lot. And my boys are really healthy today because of that additional, whatever they were getting.
The colostomy or something.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Breast milk is really good for passing on the antibodies. So Kaylin and Jared don't get sick a lot.
Yeah.
And so I'm very thankful for that. But yeah, it does wreak havoc on your whole body. And I had all this extra skin too, because I had stretched so far, like all this stuff. So you're like, I look like a Sharpay now. Like, what is happening? I was so cute before I had these.
You're like these freaking critters.
Yeah, it totally changes your whole body. So it is that. But you have these two beautiful kids. So and they tell you, oh, you're just supposed to be so happy. Yeah, you're happy, but good Lord. Like,
But reality, though, like I have eyes and
yeah,
feelings.
yeah,
So
exactly.
you postpartum,
Yeah.
3 years of blacking out.
And then year 4, the boys are doing really well. They're in daycare.
You didn't work for those
No,
3
I
years?
work. I was working. I
Okay.
worked for myself, and I was doing design work and a lot of training, development. Still designer,
Designer in, because you got to be specific because they're like, oh, she's a clothes designer.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That's right. So no, I'm a UX designer.
Mhm.
So I am doing interface design. I'm designing training modules for HP, and I'm doing web design for clients and branding and all of anything regarding design.
Yeah.
I'm in that world. Visual design, I should
And this
say.
was in the early
This is in the 2000s.
The early
Right. So
2000s?
I would say 2007.
Okay.
Right? So 2008 rolls around and the boys are 4 on the cusp of turning 5. They're October babies. And we have this wonderful Memorial Day weekend celebration. Friends come over and we're barbecuing and we just hanging out. The boys are running around. It's really, really fun.
Mhm.
And then the next morning, I get woken up by a friend who's calling the house to check on me. Can they come over? And I'm like, yeah, I got to drop the boys at daycare.
Yeah.
Feel free to come on by. And on the way to school, my son, Jared, says, Mommy, did, my daddy's brother die today? Just kind of out in the blue, he asked that question.
Kids.
And my other son, Kalen, goes, why do you say that? He got really upset with Jared for even asking. And then Jared just says, second question, Mommy, did my daddy die? And I'm like, what are you talking about? We're on the way to daycare.
Yeah.
I drop him off at school. I said, no. I'm gonna call daddy on the way home. And when, I pick you up, you're gonna get a chance to talk to your dad.
Mm-hmm.
And so, unbeknownst to me, over that morning on the way to work, my husband had died in a car accident, and I didn't know. No one knew,
Your son knew.
apparently.
Whoa.
Spiritually, the road that we passed on every day was the road he died on. And we were going to school on that road. The accident is cleared. How he knew that someone had died is completely, still to this day, a mystery to me.
Yeah.
But I get back home, I call his job, and I hear the commotion. I know something is wrong. They start saying they're sorry, but they don't tell me sorry for what. So I'm kind of really, stressed. Driving back home, I get home and my friends who called, they're there. It's my friend is a pastor, by the way, and he delivers the news that my husband has been killed that morning. So, my boys are 4. I'm a widow. I'm 40 years old, completely devastated.
Mm-hmm.
Not ever expecting like something like that would happen to me. And I think my story then kind of changes and morphs because this is not something that anyone can plan for, right? Um, to raise your 2 children by yourself, the life you had envisioned for yourself
Mm-hmm.
is completely different.
Was the wreck like
Single car accident.
single, just him?
Yeah, he had sleep apnea,
Mm-hmm.
and he also would fall asleep a lot while driving, which is why I'm always very kind of almost alarmed when friends tell me that they're driving and they're tired. I get kind of like real stressed about it
Yeah.
because, you know, I know that, Rafi drove tired, and the scene of the accident, there was very little information given to me because there was no foul play, or there wasn't, they did eventually do an autopsy because his mother really wanted one.
Yeah.
But it was a single car accident. They did say it looked like he tried to correct to save, but it was too late. And he
Yeah.
wasn't wearing a seatbelt, so he was immediately thrown out of the
Mm.
car and succumbed to his injuries head on. So he died, they said, almost immediately, which I think is probably grace.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have want him to suffer.
Mm-hmm.
But one day you're fine, and then the next day your world is upside down. So that's kind of the next, I think, year. I was just really on autopilot, and I made a lot of bad decisions. Financially, things I probably should not have touched and dealt with because when you're emotional like that, you tend to go on and make stupid decisions. So
And people approach you
oh,
and
100%.
help you make
Oh,
poor
100%.
it's
Everybody had their hand out.
it's phenomenal the amount of vultures that come
Right.
when people pass.
Yeah.
Either people assume that you have money or they want a piece of something because you're broken.
Yeah.
And it's beyond me
Yeah.
in so many ways. So I want to pause and I want to talk because we're talking about womanhood, right?
Yeah.
And telling these stories.
Yeah.
And your mom, you feel like, what'd you say? You look like a
Sharpay.
A Sharpay. You know, you're a widow at this point and you've lost both your parents. Your siblings are spread all over the country.
Yeah.
You're in this UX space, what is now called UX.
Yeah, it's called, yes.
Right?
Start off as human factors.
Human factors.
And now
oh, okay, we're tying this together. So the
Yeah.
human factors and everything.
They're related.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Yeah.
How do you define and hang on to your femininity in all this?
That's an interesting question. I think for a long time, I was not really focused on that. I was focused on mothering these two boys. They saved me, truthfully. If I didn't have my children, I don't know that I would have done as well as I did.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to keep a pattern, a routine for them. I wanted to make sure that, you know, I was there when they came home from school. And I just wanted to make sure that I was a good mother. That's one thing I wasn't willing to mess up on. So I was really there. I read to them every night and played with them in their bath. I always sung to them. They even remember the songs I would sing to them all the time.
Did you make up songs?
All the time. And I would sing old songs and new songs and play. We had so much fun when they were little. And when my son got older, he had said to me, Mom, you know I probably should have been more scarred by the loss of my dad, but you filled so much of my life with everything that I don't remember feeling like I was missing anything. And that was like the best compliment I could have ever gotten. That I was, you know, it makes me kind of emotional to think that I lost my husband, but I was able to still fill their life with so much love and joy. So that's everything, right?
Yeah.
I mean, your career is great, but that's everything.
Yeah,
you know?
especially that kind of that insight from a kid, right?
Yeah.
Like regardless of how old they are, it's just
Yeah.
like, you know, sometimes I sit with my mom and I'm like, man, I told her one day, I said, I'm glad dad left you.
Yeah.
You know, like if we had to pick, and nobody ever wants to pick what parent goes.
Right.
But, you know, I would have picked wrong. I'd have been like, oh, keep dad. I know you better. But like, it's been so phenomenal, like getting to know my mother.
Yeah.
Because at 32, having daddy issues looks way different,
Yeah,
right? Like, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, is this what it is?
Yeah.
The guy has sex with everybody, but I had already done that. So I can't do that.
Exactly.
And I don't need to know I'm beautiful. I know that, like all these things. But the daddy issues came with, well, shit. Like, I thought that my parents were my best friends, but it was filtered through my dad to my mom. And I had to relearn a relationship with my mother.
Yeah.
So I think that is an amazing compliment that he was able to vocalize and verbalize that to you in that type of way.
What did show up for me after Rafi died is trying to really date in this new kind of era of dating. Because the internet became a thing and then online dating was big.
Did you do blackpeoplemeet.com?
Oh, girl. I met some of the craziest people on that app. But so I took it off my don't like me with Black People Meet. No. Yeah, because you have to try it, right?
It was .com at first, right?
Yeah.
Black Planet.
No, it was Black People Meet when I met it. I don't know if
No, but I'm just going through all of them. There was Match.com.
Oh yeah. So the first one was eHarmony. Right?
eHarmony.
I'm like 5 million questions like to match you
for an algorithm.
Yeah, it was too much. Then Match was a thing, and then of course these other ones. But the online dating was hot then, and I just wasn't ready to date for a while. Like I want to say 3 years post my husband's death, I wasn't dating. About year 4, I was like, okay, I might could date now. And so then it was the online thing. And I was having fun for about 5 minutes. I was like, this is kind of nice. There was no swiping left at that point. So you really had to read profile. It was so new that people were still in their right mind. Now they crazy. But
this shit is wild.
Yeah. But back then it was not bad, you know? And I met some really good people on the app. Nobody that I wanted to marry, but you know, I had some fun going out and stuff. Yeah. Yeah. So that was definitely a challenge. I mean, post, you know, the pandemic, I think things have shifted because people were forced to go online. You didn't have a choice. So I think you're seeing a completely different era of dating now.
It's rough.
It's real bad.
So if you have to think about, now and then and all the transitions in life you've been through, would you rather be crazy rich, like money wise, like crazy, whatever you define it as? Like my crazy rich is the billions. Like me and Rihanna would like purchase an island together and just, timeshare the shit because we're
Right.
billionaires together. Or would you rather be deeply in love with somebody?
Hmm. That's a good question, but I think it's easy for me. I think I would choose the latter, deeply in love with someone.
Mhm.
I would definitely want Rafi to be back here.
Mhm.
I would bring him back if I could. Um, because you can build a life and you can build stuff with somebody. Um, but if you have all the money in the world but you don't have love, really are you rich?
Mm.
I think money can only it's a tool. It's not meant to replace human connection, and we are not wired to just have stuff.
Mm.
So I am happy. I feel pretty rich right now, actually, and pretty wealthy. I have love of my family. I have great friends. I have great community of women that surrounds me. I feel
And you
really.
have a solid income too,
I have a
which
good
makes it good.
yeah. I mean, I wouldn't call myself rich in that financial
You
sense,
rich, bitch.
but
You a
I
real
yeah,
big timer.
but
Like,
I could pay my bills, and
yeah.
yeah, I feel comfortable. I have a great
Mhm.
home. So yeah, I feel very well off
But the love is
with
what
the
you would
love.
pick. I
Yeah.
think right now in this part of my life, I would pick to be crazy rich. And it's not because I don't love and love being in love. It's because I really feel like this is one of my lifetimes of penance. And I really do feel like with a lot of money, I can create a lot of ability for people to help them with social change and be the fuel. And I would love to be a VC.
Mhm.
And I would love to be a social impact VC. I've never said that, you know what I mean?
Wow, that's pretty
But
cool.
yeah, and I would love to do that for the people I've already met that have businesses that are ready. Because I believe in the buy black, I believe in support POC, I believe in support women.
Yeah.
But what I don't believe in is supporting people that aren't ready. I don't give a shit who you are.
Yeah, I know that's
Right?
right.
Like people like, Legina, you're so pro. Yeah, it only goes so far because if
Right.
you look at the teams and the people I work with, they're ready and
Yeah.
they're about it. And I believe in endorsing people that are ready and about it. And I would do that. I'd rather be crazy rich.
Yeah.
And I would pass on like love in this lifetime for that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's pretty clear.
Mm,
I've made a lot of money in my career.
yeah.
I've given a lot of myself. I've helped a lot of people.
Hmm.
So I have that perspective
Hmm.
of my 30 years in this industry. I don't even know how many people I've launched sites for
Mm,
or helped with their brands at this point. I've invested a lot of myself already in a lot of people. So I think now my perspective is okay, now invest in the people that most need you,
hmm.
the people closest to you, the people who are your legacy. Yeah, it could be a bunch of strangers, that's true, but I've already invested a ton in people that are not my family.
Yeah.
So I think I'm just looking at, what can I do for the people that are closest to me?
Hmm.
And so my perspective a little bit older is shifting
Hmm.
the other way because I have spent so much time serving the world.
Yeah. I need to go back and listen to see if I ever picked uh deeply in love. I need to go back and check or at some point.
Mhm.
So what is something that you really like about yourself right now?
I think I like that I am so forgiving and so give myself so much grace.
Yeah.
I tend to be, I was a recovering perfectionist,
Mm.
just really hard on myself. That comes from my dad, though. He was a person that really demanded excellence. And it was kind of hard to live up to those standards. And I carried it for a long time. And then through therapy, I released it. I was like, you know what? I'm good enough. I'm never going to be able to, be perfect at everything. And so, you know, just good enough is good. you all right. So now just giving myself grace in this season feels really good. And I love where my kids are too, this age. Just having conversations with my sons yesterday. I had a great conversation with both of them yesterday. And just being able to, okay, I had something to do with these human beings, how
You've
they've turned.
contributed to
Yeah.
society through them.
They're gonna do, and it doesn't always have to be me, is what I
Mhm.
realize. Sometimes the greatness doesn't have to come from Franka. It can come from Kaylin and Jared.
Mm.
I think sometimes we're always driving, 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 trying to, it has to come from me. It doesn't. I made two other human beings. They can come from them.
Mhm.
And that to me is wonderful.
Yeah, it's powerful too.
Yeah.
So we shy away from this failure thing, right? Like you're talking about perfectionism, and it at some point, I'm sure quantifiably you were like, that perfectionism led to my dad like dying,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Because all of that stress and internalization. But is a society, in entrepreneur world, it's like fail fast and keep going, right? I'm like, whatever. I love the word failure from this exploratory sense of shit. I fail often,
Mhm.
daily, big, little. Some of it I learned some of it I'm like, I'm gonna do that again because I'm pretty sure I could do it better. And I fell again, right?
I know that's right.
But what is something that you have fabulously failed at?
I fail all the time.
Yeah.
Like regularly. And you're always reevaluating and reassessing. I think I launched a course. I mean, I don't even know if I really ever really launched it. I kind of half-ass launched a course, but I didn't really launch it. And then I was like, okay, I don't want to do that again. That kind of sucks. But I've done some things where I've done it like a half-ass that, and then I think I don't want to do it again. I didn't like that feeling. But, what else have I launched? I mean, I've done some things half-assed, and I think a lot of it is if I don't feel like I'm doing it at the right level or I'm doing it the way that I wanna do it, I just don't wanna do it.
Mm,
That's not a good attitude though. So one of the things I'm trying to do now is just be more consistent with the things that I'm doing, and go hard. But I'll do stuff for a long time, and if I don't see, like, real results, I'm like, "Yeah, don't do that no more." That's just how I am. I'm like, "Yeah, that's not working for you, do something else."
mhm, mhm,
But one thing I have to say I've been real consistent on is my work. I am always getting better at design. I'm always up leveling my game. I am constantly investing in getting better
mhm.
all the time. And that's something I'm really proud of because some people, they'll start something and then they're like, oh, let me pivot and do this other thing. I've never done that.
Mhm.
Every year I've been a designer, I've gotten better every year. And I'm proud of that because I stay curious. I don't believe that I know everything. I'm
Yeah.
always trying to grow. And then my customers, my clients, they push me too because they'll ask for things and I'm like, okay, I got to know how to do that, how to
Yeah.
support them. And I don't care how old I am. I know how to support them, how to help them market. I'm staying on top of trends. I'm all into AI right now. I've
Mhm.
immersed myself in understanding the technology. I don't think I'm ever going to stop learning like that.
Yeah. What's a technology or software that has gone away that you would want to come back?
There's so many products. The other day I was trying to I have an external DVD drive. Cause I'm sorry, CD-ROM drive. I'm still kind of pissed off that Apple took them out of my MacBook Pro. So I buy an external one because I still play CDs. And so I'm like, why does that technology go away? I like the idea of something on like a little disc that I could pop
Mhm,
in
mhm.
my car. And the other day we were watching Sister Act 2. You remember that's the one with Lauren
Yeah,
Hill,
I
right?
love it.
So
La 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 la
la
la
la
la
la la
la
la
la
la.
la.
So I was watching it and I remember I bought the soundtrack and it's in the car. Thank God my car is old enough that I have a CD-ROM drive. So I
Ooh.
popped it in and I was singing along with it. And I was like, why did this technology die?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. So when you talk about CDs, I always think of the miseducation of Lauryn
Lauren Hill.
Hill. My sister and well, she was into Lauryn Hill and she got me into Lauryn Hill. And we used to ride from San Angelo to San Antonio and that saw
That
the
CD.
bells. What is love?
Yes.
It's because love doesn't da 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 da. And then all the things. Oh
Love that
man, I love
album.
that.
I have it on CD as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think I have it impressed too.
I have a whole thing of CDs that I just will not get rid of because
Yeah,
I'm like, surely this will come back.
it may. Look at vinyl.
Yeah.
What is something when you're thinking of yourself, you're talking, you're a business owner, people see you, you have conversations, you've been on podcasts.
Mhm.
What is something that you want people very clearly to know about you that may not be obvious all the time?
Um, how empathetic I am. I don't know if that's always obvious. That I really listen well, not just with my ears, but with my heart.
Mhm.
Um, and that your story imprints on me a lot.
Mhm.
A lot of times that's really why I think I'm so good at what I do is because I really listen so well with my heart, not just with my ears. Like some people listen and they hear your story and they're not able to reflect back your story, but I'm listening so deeply to your story. It's touching me here. I almost can tell you your story later on
Mhm.
and I can write your story, which is like I think one of my gifts
It's magic.
that I can sit and listen to you and say, okay, I get your story so deeply that now I'm gonna write copy for you
Mm.
about it. Like that to me is God given. I really don't take, I don't know that I could have learned that anywhere.
Mhm.
But that's something that probably people don't know about me is that I listen so well with my heart. And I don't always want to be the person in the room that's talking the most because I'm really still trying to listen to you. And people talk not just with what they say but with their body. I'm a real observer of body language and I feel energy a lot. I don't know if people know that about me, but I pick up on everyone's energy.
Mm.
And sometimes even through the computer, I can feel when I've lost friendships, I have felt the energy leave my life.
Mm.
Just the way they're interacting in the online space. Is that crazy or what?
I think it's real. And I also have realized in me, even over the last couple years, that I will pull my energy away from you
Yes.
when I have decided that you're the level of our interactions are of jealousy or of misdirection or of accidental envy or
Mm.
whatever. And I say accidental because I don't think that anybody wakes up, I'm going to be envious of everybody today, right? Like, what
Right.
is it? The seven deadly sins.
Right.
And sometimes you don't realize that. Um, Season 4, the dynamics of women. And when you think about the dynamics of women and who we are in our totality right
Right.
now, what comes to mind when you think about the dynamics of women?
I think people are awakening that we are, we can have everything, but just not all at the same time. When I grew up, it was the Anjali. I can break up the bacon and fry it up in the pan, do everything, and be everything to everyone. And we realize now that there are limitations.
Mhm.
And even though we're dynamic in so many amazing ways, we recognize our humanness
Yeah.
and that we have to give ourselves the opportunity to be human. And we are not everything. We don't need to be everything. It's okay to be fragile and soft. I read somewhere, and I think I wrote this in a copy for a client. Um, we allow women to be soft. And being soft doesn't mean that you're a punk
Ain't
or
no punk
yeah,
bitch.
ain't
All
nothing
that.
like that. It means that you just get to sit in the softness of who you are as a human, that you do cry. You don't got to be like a man. We now men. We are women. We are different. And but we can be like we can come hard for you, but
Mhm.
we also, the softness of who we are
Mhm.
as mothers, because I nurture babies. My husband doesn't do that.
Yeah.
Right? It's a different kind of an energy being a woman and knowing that, I can show up in that way, but I'm also smart and I'm also running a business and I'm also taking care of my home. And if I need to, I can go, turn off the pipe up in the attic and make sure that the house doesn't leak. Like I've been doing that for a long
Mhm.
time on my own. But understanding that, I can also be soft. I think that's okay. Being dynamic and owning the world is possible when you look at Rihanna and what she's been able to do. And then she decided, okay, I'm gonna be a mom too, and I'm gonna have babies. Isn't that
And
beautiful?
still fuck up the Met Gala.
I know. Now I have a little bit of a pet peeve with the Met Gala because of who they honored.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so like I wasn't a fan because he was like to me a bigot, and honoring him, it was problematic for me.
Yeah.
But you know, I love seeing people show up. I just wish that it was under different circumstances because I'm not a fan of
the
him.
bullshit.
Yeah. If we're gonna call people out for what they do, be consistent. I think that's where I had the problem. And, you know, you can't separate, you know, taking a stand depending on, you know, just because it's publicity.
What stand it is.
Yeah. Don't show up for somebody that you know was racist, bigoted, not just to people that were different, but people of different sizes.
Yeah.
You know, that was problematic for me. That just not to be political, but that
I don't think that's political. And if it is, who cares?
yeah,
the dynamics of women.
Yeah, that's just how I felt about that. Yeah.
All right, y'all. That is our episode today. Franka, I want to thank you for taking time, sharing your story, being so open with your journey.
Thank you for having me.
It has been, you're welcome. It has been very interesting getting to know you more. So I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Listeners, viewers, everybody out there, make sure you like, follow, and share LaRae Infinity Let's Talk podcast, because every story is different. Every episode has its own roller coaster ride. And as you're moving through the world, as you're figuring out how life is going to ebb and flow for you, what you're going to do, what you're not going to do, how you're going to invest, how you're not going to invest, your YOLO moments and everything else. Always remember to tell your own story, be your own brand, live your truth, and stand in your moment.
All right, y'all. My name is Franka. I am 55 years old. And I hope y'all really took away that you have the opportunity to create your own story. And it doesn't have to follow any straight line. It's going to twist and turn, and that's okay too. You just listen to my story as I live my truth and stand in my moment on the LaRae Infinity Let's Talk podcast, season 4, The Dynamics of Women.
Thank you. All right, y'all. Cheers. And until next time, one love. Peace.
Peace.